How many Americans own a gun? How often do they carry them? To parrot what everybody else has said, no. Not all Americans. There are about 320 million of us now, and it's highly unlikely, and legally improbable, for all Americans to own guns. For starters, the right to bear arms isn't absolute. The mentally infirm and convicts, certainly in the system and most outside of the system after having served their term, are barred from possessing arms. Right, there is something like 10 million-ish, possibly more. TLDR, but a lot of people do own guns. There is no simple answer to the problem of gun violence in the US because simple answers usually involve disregarding A. the Constitution, B. the improbability of changing the Constitution, C. the way we make government, democratically, and D. the wishes of far too many Americans, whose beliefs would make changing the Constitution a violent affair. That is, to a lot, possibly most Americans, life isn't the most valuable commodity, even the life of innocent Americans. Freedom is, and they, foolishly or not, consider that freedom means that bad people will occasionally do bad things with that freedom, and that we should not overreact to those bad people by punishing the good ones. The attempt to fix cracks in our system is believed to be a path to tyranny. The gun violence in the USA isn't as simple as saying, gun control. As much as our Australian, or Canadian, or European friends would think. 60% of gun deaths are suicide. The remaining balance of those gun deaths are almost totally violent crime, see, drug-related. The US could systemically fix our gun problem if we actually demonstrated concern for the underlying causes of gun violence rather than harped on and on about gun control. There are serious underlying issues in the American system that do not exist in significant numbers in those places. It's tempting to be overly general and say, no. Guns. But that's not the case. There are three large groups of underprivileged and forgotten people in the USA that feed the cycle of violence and generational poverty in this nation: blacks in urban areas, Hispanics in urban areas, white people living in poverty-stricken areas in the South and Appalachia. All told, we're looking at something north of 90% of all the generational poor. That is, the poverty is handed from parent to child. Because poor whites live outside of urban areas, mostly, gun violence is a markedly smaller issue, but still present. There's no such luck for most of the black and Hispanic poor. Even if the US banned all guns today, it would be generations before all guns were removed from criminal gangs given the incredible numbers, probably topping 1 billion, already in circulation. Additionally, there are brilliant men and women who are pro-gun, who'd simply set up clandestine operations in their garages and basements to make new ones. They aren't all that hard to reverse engineer for a skilled metallurgist or gunsmith. Lastly, instead of bickering about gun control, which is a no-win situation, sorry Kirk, we should acknowledge the underlying causes of gun violence, which is poverty, blighted cities, shitty education, and incredibly decrepit infrastructure in places where it's needed most. Fix that, give poor kids hope for a future, and the really juicy number of gun violence go away quickly without having to overly fret about gun ownership in America. Rah, rah, rah.